Thank you for joining us on the program from the National Assembly. I'm Ignatius Nkwo. Well, from the other paper, the Senate had scheduled 6 motions for consideration. But then the Senate has already reconvened as early as 10 o'clock this morning. And then there's a motion that came on the floor on the matter of urgent public importance. That motion was introduced by the minority leader of the Senate. Now, that motion condemned the killing of a Nigerian, Elizabeth Chukwu, in South Africa, while the Senate also commended the federal government for its swift response in reacting to the killing of this Nigerian. They also urged the federal government to issue travel alerts to Nigerians wishing to travel to South Africa so as to equip them with the necessary information on how to guard themselves when they get to that place. Well, the Senate is already sitting, and so we'll now go straight to the Red Chamber so as to follow with the proceedings.
Mr. President, Mr. President, I seek to have your attention, Mr. President. Yes. I crave your indulgence, sir.
I've not looked through that city. We don't know where they are now to reflect on the southwest. Northeast, North Central.
Then the last one is the appointment.
Master, where is he from? No, we complained in our estimate. Lopsided.
Should be stopped the confirmation.
I don't know where they are from.
Thank you. Thank you, the impartial President of the Nigerian Senate. I was just drawing your attention, Mr. President, to the provisions of Section 14(3) of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And to drive it further home, I want to say, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I have looked at this list and I have taken legislative note of the nominees. And I want to say clearly that I have not found any nominee from the southeast of Nigeria and southwest of.
Okay, Senator Zuma, let me rule on this. You came under a point of order, so I need to rule. Distinguished colleague Ezuma, this request of Mr. President for the confirmation of 3 non-executive commissioners is only half a picture of the composition of the commission, the NCC. The NCC consists of course, the EVC is there, some other commissioners represented. These geopolitical zones have their representations expired, and therefore we need to either renew the request or there are new people just to fill in those laws. So there is nothing here to tell you that other zones are not represented. But thank you very much anyway for raising the point of order. I believe that this country, the leadership of this country, which we are part, will continue to ensure that every part of the country is carried along and nobody is left behind. Thank you. Point of order, Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Aliu Sabi Abdullahi, Niger North. Mr. President, I would like to come under Order 53, subsection 6. With the leave of the Mr. President, I would like to read. It shall be out of order to attempt to reconsider any specific question upon which
the Senate has come to a conclusion during the current session, except upon a substantive motion for recession. So I would like to seek the indulgence of Mr. President to reconsider the earlier decision we have taken with respect to the confirmation of the nominees from NCC and others, which we said should be done in the Committee of the Whole. We definitely have some other issues that the Committee of the Whole is supposed to attend to very urgently. So to reconsider this decision, I would like to come with a motion, if it's so approved, taking order 42 and 52, so that we can actually just approve that an ad hoc committee should rather be, to move a motion that the ad hoc committee be set up to consider the confirmation. That's what I'm saying.
The distinguished Deputy Chief Whip, your point of order, of course, will be put to for the question for us to approve. But I also let me not vote, so I'll put the question. Those in favor, sorry? Just wait. The motion for rescission of the earlier motion of the Senate leader that the screening and confirmation of the nominees for NCC and NIPS be done by the Committee of the Whole. Just listen, there is a point of order on ground. We have to rule on that first. The motion is to rescind the earlier question put as moved by the Senate leader. So we'll put the question first. We'll put the question on the motion, but let me have a seconder first. Who seconds the motion? Senator Kabirga.
Mr. President, I'm Kabiru Gaya, representing the people of Kano South. Why I seconding the motion ably moved by
the single senator, we are only to second the motion. We are not debating.
Well guided, Mr. President. I therefore second the motion ably moved by Savi. And
okay. Those in favor of the motion moved by the Senate Deputy Chief Whip that the Senate rescinds its decision, say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Nay. The ayes have it. So you come up with a substantive motion tomorrow so that we can debate it. And of course, we should be in a hurry to finish our activities. With motion? Okay, move the motion. Order. Move your motion, Deputy Chief.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Aliu Sabi Abdullahi, Niger North. I move that this Senate do set up an ad hoc committee to specifically consider the confirmation of the nominees from the National Communication Commission and the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies as requested by Mr. President. I so move.
Senator Barrow Jibrin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Barrow Jibrin, I represent Kano North. Mr. President, I stand to second the motion ably moved by Deputy Chief Whip of this August Senate, Senator Sabi Abdullahi. I so second.
Let me put the question, please. Those in support of the motion, of the prayer of the motion moved by the Senate Deputy Chief Whip that another committee be set up to screen the nominees sent by Mr. President, say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The ad hoc committee. The ad hoc committee to screen the nominees consists of Senator Taslim Folarin, Chairman, Senator James Manager, Member, Senator Haya Oloragbe, Member, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, Member, Senator Obina Ogba, Member, Senator Barrow Jibril, Member, Senator Yusuf A. Yusuf, Member. The committee has tomorrow, between today and tomorrow actually, to do the screening and report to the Senate on Tuesday next week, the first legislative day of the Senate next week. Senate Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues.
Order.
The second order of the day is a motion requesting the Senate to consider the request of Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief, for the confirmation of the nomination of Professor Habu S. Galadima for appointment as the Substantive Director General of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, Kuru, in accordance with Section 5, Subsection 2 of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies Act. Mr. President, distinguished senators, the purpose of my motion on the order paper is to request Mr. President to be referred to the committee, ad hoc committee, which has just been set up to consider this particular request together with the one that was earlier treated. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Eina Baribe, Abia South. I second the motion ably moved by the Senate Leader.
Thank you very much. I'll put the question. Those in favor that the screening of the nominee be carried out by the ad hoc committee just set up under the leadership of Senator Taslim Folarin, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Senate Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. The third order of the day, distinguished senators, is a motion standing in the name of Senator Ubai Fenyi and 20 others on the unfair competition and the ardent need to protect Nigeria's indigenous airlines from extinction due to multiple designations and multiple frequencies granted under the Foreign Airlines Act of Nigeria. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Ifeanyi Uba to move the motion. I so move, Mr. President.
Senator Ifeanyi Uba.
Thank you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues. My name is Ifeanyi Uba. I am the pioneer senator of the Young Progressive Party, YPP, representing the good people of Anambra South. Mr. President, I have a motion which I think will boost Nigerian economy in the aviation sector. This motion was sponsored by my humble servant, was also co-sponsored 20 other senators. It is on the unfair competition and the urgent need to protect Nigerian indigenous airlines from extinction due to multiple designations and multiple frequencies granted to foreign airlines in Nigeria. Mr. President, the Senate knows that foreign airlines are now designated to multiple routes within Nigeria. For example, Ethiopian Airlines operates in 5 cities, namely Enugu, Kano, Kaduna, Lagos, and Abuja. Turkish Airlines operates in 4 cities, Abuja, Kano, Lagos, and Port Harcourt. And Emirates Airlines operates 2 frequencies daily into Lagos and 1 to Abuja. Worried about the fate of indigenous airlines, with the spate of multiple designations given to foreign airlines, notes further that besides multiple designations, foreign airlines are now being encouraged to do multiple frequencies to the country and within the country, which is not allowed in other countries. For instance, Turkish Airlines have just started Istanbul to Abuja, Abuja to Port Harcourt, Port Harcourt to Abuja, then Abuja to Istanbul. Lufthansa and Air France are also doing the same, thereby running indigenous airlines out of business. Concerned that while Emirates has 2 frequencies to into Lagos and 1 to Abuja, it has announced plans to introduce a 3rd flight in and out of Lagos to start very soon, making it 3 flights daily to Lagos. Note gladly that Air Peace, being Nigeria, Central Africa, and West Africa's biggest airline, commenced international flights operation into Charger on the 5th of July, which is last week, Saturday. An initiative that can be stifled if unfair advantage given to foreign airlines. I want us to note, Mr. President, that Air Peace has about 26 aircraft, including 4 Boeing 777, and has placed additional order for 20 brand new aircraft. This is by far the biggest indigenous airline investment by a Nigerian. Mr. President, cognizant of the fact that other Nigerian airlines, such as Arik, Virgin Nigeria, Mr. President, cognizant of the fact that other Nigerian airlines, such as Arik, Virgin Nigeria, Medview, and others, have in the past been run out of international routes by this trend and of unfair advantages allowed foreign airlines in Nigeria. Aware equally that our indigenous airlines have the capacity to cover all the domestic routes being operated now by these foreign airlines. Further aware that the practice in international aviation is for foreign airlines to partner with local airlines to help them distribute their passengers within the domestic routes. Notes that the unrestrained grant of designations and multiple frequencies to foreign airlines is not only hurting the growth of our indigenous carriers, but also a monumental disservice to the economy of Nigeria in several ways. Besides threatening the continuous existence of our indigenous carriers, Distinguished colleagues, please. Can I have my way, please? Besides threatening the continuous existence of our indigenous...
Point of order, Senator Alero.
Thank you, Mr. President. Muhammad Adamu is my name. I represent the good people of Kebbi Central. I come under Order 53, 8. No senator should impute improper motives to any other senator. Mr. President, while Senator Ifeanyi Oba is reading his motion, a number of senators are saying, is he a shareholder? Is he a shareholder? I think they are imputing improper motives.
You didn't hear? Yes, sir.
Yes. Noted.
Distinguished colleagues, please let's listen to our colleague in silence and nobody should think that there is anything outside of patriotism in what our colleague is trying to present. Senator Alero, thank you. Your order is sustained.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to make it clear that APIS is owned by Mr. Allen Onyema.
You are protected, so don't go there. Please, just go straight to your...
Further aware that the practice in international aviation is for the foreign airlines to partner with local airlines to help them distribute their passengers within the domestic routes. Note that the unrestrained grant of destinations and multiple frequencies to foreign airlines is not only hurting the growth of our indigenous carriers, but also a monumental disservice to the economy of Nigeria in several ways. Besides threatening the continuous existence of our indigenous carriers, the capital flight out of Nigeria engendered by this unwholesome practice is monumental and harmful to our economy. Just a note, over 50 airlines have existed in Nigeria in the past 18 years, and sadly, only 9 are currently flying. Note equally that Nigerians' jobs are seriously at risk as a result of this dire situation, since it is the indigenous airlines that provide massive job opportunity to our people. The number of jobs created by all the airlines put together is not up to what APIS alone created in its first year of existence. APIS today has over 3,000 employees and also has created over 8,000 ancillary jobs. Disturbed that the unwholesome practice is not only threatening the survival and growth of Nigerian aviation industry, but to a large extent harming the economy of the nation, and afraid that if this practice is not checked immediately, it will ultimately lead to the collapse of Nigerian indigenous airlines. The Senate accordingly resolved to summon the Permanent Secretary of Ministry of Transport, the Director General of Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, the Managing Director of FAN, to explain to the Senate why foreign airlines are allowed to fly multiple routes within Nigeria to mop up passengers, a practice not allowed in other countries. 1. 2, mandate foreign airlines to provide statistics of Nigerians in their employment, encourage them to employ more Nigerians and to partner with indigenous airlines. 3, urge the federal government to give indigenous airlines the necessary support and protection to keep them afloat. And 4, invite the indigenous airline operators to explain to the Senate the challenges they are facing in the aviation industry in Nigeria, as well as to point the way forward. I so submit, Mr. President.
The Senate Minority Leader.
Thank you very much, the President of the Senate. My name is Enyin Naya Baribe. I represent Abia South, and I stand to second this motion that is anchored on economic nationalism and patriotic zeal to ensure that Nigeria's economy is also promoted via the transport industry. We thank the mover of this motion. I especially know that this same type of motion had come up in the 7th Senate. At that point, we were trying, and also in the 8th Senate, we were trying also to ensure that a Nigerian airline, ARIC, also has bilateral flights into those countries that fly into Nigeria. Distinguished colleagues, what normally happens in everywhere else in the world is that if our country gives you slots, you also give us slots. What we have seen happening in Nigeria has always been an unfair competition against any airline from Nigeria, in which case slots that are given to foreign airlines to come into Nigeria, the same is not given to Nigerian airlines to fly into those foreign destinations. I want to say that the government of President Muhammadu Buhari, some time ago, last year, also tried to float an airline that would be a Nigerian airline, and later had to put it in abeyance pending further investigation into getting a national carrier. So if we now have our own airline, privately owned, with the capacity to be able to reciprocate foreign airlines coming into Nigeria, I think the only thing we can do is to support it, rather than say that we are unable to manage. I want to congratulate the mover of this motion, Mr. Ifeanyi Oba, distinguished Senator Oba, and also to tell him that the reason why you may get some murmurs from your colleagues is because usually we have not had the best of service from indigenous airlines. Some people look at indigenous airlines from their personal interest. But I can tell you, from my own personal experience, when Arik was flying to New York, I was using it, and it was very good as any other airline. That they eventually got mismanaged is a different story. I can also say, Mr. President of the Senate, that the recent flight, maiden flight of Air Peace to Dubai was also, I spoke to the owner. I also spoke to our colleague who was part of that flight, distinguished Senator Uche Ekunife. And she affirmed to me that it was also as good as the Emirates flight that comes to Nigeria. And therefore, we can only but support this motion and continue to help any Nigerian enterprise that seeks to compete with the outside world. The only thing we can do is to give them support, because we are now in the 21st century and we will have to do everything we can to compete with the rest of the world. And of course, to also commend our entrepreneurs who take risks and try to put Nigeria on the international scale. I so second. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, we have 6 motions today, and I have a very long list of names of people who want to contribute on this. So in order to give everybody an opportunity, I think we need to maybe try to be very brief with our contributions, maybe a maximum of 3 minutes, so that those who want to contribute will contribute. Deputy Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I'm watching you.
Distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Emmanuel Boacha. I represent Taraba South. Mr. President, I was also trying to murmur until somebody whispered to me the economic significance, the economic nationalism. Let me borrow from the word of my colleague. I think it's a well thought out idea that I know that on its own may flourish. What do I mean by this, Mr. President? Nigeria is one of the countries in the world that has the highest number of private jet owners. And from what we are going through, and by the time we get to the next level, you don't need these owners to preach to them. On their own, this private jet will become commercial aircraft. This I know, and I think it is going to help in building the economy so that we cannot afford this luxury anymore. I'm saying this with all sense of patriotism because we need a fair sense of competition, like my colleague said. So I see the sense in this motion, and I want to congratulate my colleague, Senator Uba, and ask my fellow colleagues to support this motion also. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Ayo Akinye-Lure.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Ayo Akinye-Lure. I represent Ondo Central. I rise, Mr. President, to support this motion of encouraging our local airlines. Mr. President, as Nigerians, we believe in foreign goods. Whatever we can do as a Senate, Mr. President, to support our local entrepreneurship development, it is time to do that. Mr. President, I want to congratulate the mover of this motion because he believes in what we have in this country. Mr. President, local airlines need to be encouraged. However, their services is still underutilized by our countrymen. Mr. President, I believe wholeheartedly that if these local airlines are given opportunities, are patronized, they can favorably compete with these foreign airlines. And I believe, all things being equal, They should be encouraged, and I so much support this motion as moved by my colleague. I so submit, Mr. President.
Senator Yusuf.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Yusuf Abubakar Yusuf. I represent Taraba Central. My comments, first of all, I commend distinguished Senator Uba for bringing this motion, and I also support the motion. However, you see, you cannot have a fair competition in an environment which does not support it. The aviation environment, the regulatory and what of it, do not support fair competition in this country. The taxes placed on aviation is about 50% of the airfare in this country. People now go to Ghana to get their flights outside the country. Instead of flying directly from Nigeria outside, they now go to Ghana and fly to Europe and fly to America. So the fundamental issue for us to have a fair competition is to look at our local industry, our regulatory industry. What are they doing? Secondly, sir, we have ARIC, we have Aero. These two airlines are being managed by AMCON because AMCON has taken over the management. They have so many of their aircraft lying abroad in various stages of services. AMCON could not be able to fully provide funding for them to get these aircraft back into the country and have it useful in this country. So, for us to have fair competition again, we have to come together, look at the regulatory framework, why they are doing the way they are doing, to make it unnecessary for the domestic air to have fair competition. So, assuming there's no airline at all in Nigeria, Nigerian airline domestic, we'll have to use foreign airlines to do everything that is here. So, the foreign airlines are taking advantage of our weakness. So, we have to accept that fact. It is the weaknesses of our regulatory framework in this country that has given room for the foreign airlines to overtake the competition in the country. So I support your motion, but much more to it is that we got to look at the regulatory framework. How are they managing the domestic airlines? Otherwise, the investors gradually will fall out of this country and go to other places to do. We have been trying to bring in a domestic airline or national carrier. Up till now, nothing has happened. For how many years? Recently, I learned that one of the airlines, is trying to partner with one of the Nigerian airlines. But, sir, the competition outweighing our own is our own making. It's not the making of the people outside. So our investors must come out very, very strong, sit down with government, and make proper resolution as to why and how our domestic airlines are unfairly have unfair competition. Thank you very much.
Senator Kabirga.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Kabiru Gaya, representing the people of Kano South from Kano State. First of all, I would like to commend Senator Ipenyu Uba for this motion. And I'm proud to say that I'm a father of 2 pilots and I'm flying Nigerian Airlines. The motion, Mr. President, is a straightforward motion. It's only saying there should be involvement of more of our Nigerian airlines activating within the country. That if foreign airlines come into Nigeria, they should partnership with Nigerian Airlines to bring passengers from certain location, a central location, so that if flights are leaving in the night, let them make arrangement with Nigerian Airlines any of these airlines, that Nigerian Airlines, carry passengers from that hub to one destination. There is no point where an airline from a foreign country will come and land in 2 or more places in our country, denying our airlines operating in Nigeria, making more profit. So therefore, the motion is straightforward. It's only asking for this, and that any other airlines operating internationally is a different matter. But I think this motion clearly is saying that let us give room for Nigerian Airlines to operate, even if it is at any different time, partnership with the foreign airlines. So it's a straightforward matter, and that's what the motion is more about, as I can understand it. That's the motion. So the people should understand that, Mr. President. Mr. President, I need your protection.
Order.
What if you, sorry, I'm addressing you, not my friend here, Peter, that you say if you lead aware equally that our indigenous airlines have the capacity to cover all domestic routes being operated now by these foreign airlines. So if his motion is saying that domestic routes, so we should encourage them, we should stop other foreign lines from moving from one hub to another, so that we can utilize our local airlines. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Bayabara Kumadegi.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Bayabara Kumadegi Eremiayo. I represent Bayelsa East Senatorial District. Mr. President, thank you for the opportunity given to me to make my contribution. I'll be very brief, but I'd like to also join others to thank my colleague, Senator Ifeanyi Ubah, for moving this motion. Mr. President, the fact remains that we owe our people a duty to support any idea, any move that will promote and improve employment opportunities in this country. Mr. President, currently the aviation industry provides about 150,000 employment opportunities to our people, that neighborhood, and that is a good figure. I believe that if this motion that seeks to discourage foreign airlines from depriving our local airlines through application or applying of multiple routes is approved, it will go a long way to increase employment opportunities in the country. Mr. President, the truth remains that issues of kidnapping, insecurity issues are connected with unemployment. So I support this motion totally, because if we give it approval, it will encourage our local airlines from functioning more efficiently and effectively. And of course, revenue will increase, employment opportunities will increase, and of course, the overall economy will also be boosted. So, Mr. President, I thank you for this opportunity, and I know that my good friend Ifeanyi Ubah, I know he's a businessman, but I also believe that he will operate within the confines of the law. So the murmuring by my senior colleagues on my right-hand side is also noted, but it goes to no issue. I thank you for this opportunity.
Senator Aishatu Dahiru Ahmed.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, Aishatu Dahiru Ahmed Binani, Senator representing Senator representing Adamawa Central.
What order?
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I would like to join my fellow colleagues in appreciating and commending Senator Ifeanyi Uba, because this motion seeks ways to create employment, promote our economy, as well as Nigerian business growth. I'll also want to use this opportunity to also commend our local domestic airlines for assisting us and for assisting us with our travel plans. However, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, even though I will still support that we urge all our domestic airlines be given the same slots at the international destination, the same slot that we give their own airline. However, Mr. President, we still have to look inward. Leaders in this country, especially at the executive level and also from within the legislature, always calls for increased bilateral relationship. And this also includes the air services agreement. Mr. President, distinguished senators, colleagues, it is worth mentioning to say that the BASA agreement, that is the bilateral air services agreement, out of 90, only 28 is so far being active. And out of the 28, there is no Nigerian carrier that is currently operating, currently taking part of the frequencies. The meaning is that our local airlines have not been able to take advantage of this bilateral air service agreement. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, we have to really be careful in seeking to remedy what we think or what we look at as a disadvantage to our domestic airlines in order not to jeopardize the bilateral relations we already have with other countries. For instance, the foreign airlines, no foreign airlines come into Nigeria to pick domestic passengers. I think like the airlines in questions, the Turkish airline, the Air France, even the Turkish airlines is even before. It's Istanbul, Abuja, Port Harcourt, and not Istanbul, Abuja, and Abuja, Port Harcourt, because they are two different things. If they come into Abuja, they don't pick domestic passengers to Port Harcourt. What they do, they drop the Abuja passengers, then proceed to Port Harcourt to drop Port Harcourt passengers, and then pick their Istanbul passengers back to Abuja to pick their Istanbul passengers in Abuja. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, let all of us imagine a family, an international passenger traveling with his family and children. After 6 hours of journey, to travel to Port Harcourt, only to be dropped in Abuja. That passenger will now have to begin to repack his baggages from either 30 kg or 28 kgs to 15 kgs, and then to go again through vigorous of screening, and at a great cost, as well as all the inconveniences. Mr. President, I think we should put this into consideration and urge that our domestic airlines be given equal treatment at the international destination as the way we give their own distance. Mr. President, I would like to mention...
Can you round up, please, distinguished?
This day newspaper of 5th May 2019 reveals that In 2018, Nigeria recorded 36,350 delays. Out of these flight delays, one of the airlines that is having over 22,000 flight operations recorded over 15,000. And one of the airlines that has over 15,000 flight operations recorded over 8,000, and a cancellation of 137. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, if families that are going to Port Harcourt should be dropped in Abuja